2018 marks the beginning of my journey to work through the monstrous backlog I've been building up for the last few years. So, what better way to kick this off than with a 3DS game I've never heard of and that I bought on a whim. Not exactly something I usually take the risk with, but you don't find hidden gems by looking at what every other chucklefuck is playing. Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. Honestly, I think the best way to describe this game is that it's Professor Layton with rhythm games instead of puzzles. I'm not even kidding. The longer I spent playing this, the more the similarities kept popping up. A suited man with a dapper hat, his yappy companion, the cute girl tied up with some bigger mystery in the plot, the hidden coins found by tapping the environment, the incompetent police force who hate the protagonist's guts but still cooperate with them from time to time, the list goes on. Not that it's a drawback in any particular way. I liked Professor Layton. Plus, having all the big conflicts in the story play out in rhythm-based minigames make a hell of a lot more sense than the antagonist trying to thwart Professor Layton by throwing a puzzle at him. The story of this game follows a young lad named Raphael and his dog Fondue, who live normal lives by day, but by night he throws on a suit and trilby and performs elaborate musical heists under the pseudonym Phantom R. A phantom thief, if you will. Sorry, I'm still going through Persona 5 withdrawals. Phantom R breaks into museums and steals famous pieces of art, only to return them the day after because he's quirky like that. And this is a G-rated game, so we don't want any kids following in his footsteps and becoming dancing kleptomaniacs. There is this intrigue about a few trinkets that hold a secret power, Napoleon shows up to make France great again, and two of our leads try to find out what happened to their missing parents. I won't go into too much detail because the plot of this game isn't particularly interesting in all honesty. It's basically a loosely connected series of events to insert music minigames into, which is totally fine, but unlike its senpai Professor Layton, it doesn't have any of the compelling mysteries, the memorable characters, particularly stellar writing, or interesting locales to help bring that story to life. It's just set in Paris with no particular twist to it, just a collection of landmarks and beautifully drawn backgrounds. Credit where it's due though, the art in this game is incredibly pleasing to the eyes, be it the gorgeous backgrounds, the anime FMVs, or the buttery smooth cel-shaded minigame portions. The rhythm games that make up the meatiest part of the gameplay are scattered around Paris, in both story sequences and in optional side objectives. Obviously they're not all unique challenges, but there's enough variety that they usually don't outstay their welcome. Well, except for the Cavalier Diabolique encounters. God, I got tired of seeing these guys. You'll have your standard dancing minigame where you mimic the other dancers' moves in tandem with the music using the touchscreen, running over rooftops avoiding obstacles with B and A, avoiding detection by hiding behind conveniently shaped objects at the right time, fighting off Napoleon's goons with well-timed punches, something you'll likely get very sick of by the end of the game. And then there comes a point where we're introduced to sequences involving the 3DS gyroscope, and oh god, why? There's thankfully not too many of these things, but why in God's name would you use a gyroscope in a rhythm game? The damn thing is finicky at best and unresponsive at worst. Something that isn't very helpful when hitting the mark in a split second is crucial for success. I'm not sure if it was the way I was sitting or something, but Gone with the Wind took me more tries to finish than any other challenge in the game because the gyroscope just refused to play nice. Personal gripes aside, the minigames are fine for the most part. Your mileage will vary on which ones you find enjoyable or not. Personally, I was more partial to the ones using actual buttons, because I lost track of how many times I fucked up steps in some of the touchscreen minigames, because the touchscreen wasn't satisfied with the quality of the circle that I had to draw in a split second. Or seeing a sea of harsh ratings because that final violin challenge had so many sharp notes to hit that I don't know how anyone could reasonably get the timing right without spastically scratching their stylus from side to side. My personal favourites would have to be the ones where you're jumping from tiny footholds one at a time in short succession. The highlight for me in particular was the final variant where you had to control Phantom R and Fondue at the same time by pressing a different button for each of them. It seemed daunting at first, but once I got into the rhythm, I was tapping my foot along to the music and it ended in an almost perfect run, leaving me the most satisfied I'd been with any of the minigames during the entire story. That's the kind of rush I was looking for from this game. Clearly my love for platform games is so pronounced that my bias still shows through even in completely different genres. Although I'm not sure whether it's the game design or just subjective experience, but I found the difficulty curve in the second half of the game to be all over the show. One minute I'd be breezing through an enemy encounter with a glowing A rank, and then the next I'm getting my ass handed to me in another mook rush, or trying to shoot down flying enemies with fucking gyroscope controls. Seriously, fuck Gone with the Wind. But I fought tooth and nail to beat Drakengard 3's final boss, so I wasn't going to let any of these minigames beat me. At the same time, getting a high rank can seriously feel like a complete crapshoot at pretty much any point in the game. You could be barely scraping by for most of a minigame, only to have a really good combo in the last quarter and work your way up to an A rank with ease. By the same token, you could be doing well for 80% of a challenge, but slip up on a few notes near the end and you'll be going from an A to an E faster than you can say, fuck, what happened? Perhaps this is just my inexperience with rhythm games showing though. For all I know they're all like this and my sense of rhythm is worse than I thought. Regardless, I enjoyed what I played, saw it through to the end, and my mind raced thinking about all the possibilities there could be for a premise like this if it were to become a series. Here's the crushing blow, though. This game ends with a few loose ends and story tidbits to act as a sequel hook, but this came out in 2012 and there hasn't been so much as a peep from Sega about a sequel. So you can kiss those dreams of 2 trilogies and a crossover with Phoenix Wright goodbye. I kid. I make jokes comparing this to Professor Layton, and sure I had my share of gripes, but I certainly think this is still worth your time if you're into rhythm games. It's aesthetically pleasing, the music and sound design is fantastic, and there's plenty of fun to be had in all the different musical scenarios you're thrust into during the story. Not all of them were my cup of tea, but with that level of variety I'm sure everyone will have their own subjective preferences. Definitely check it out if you can find it cheap or if it's on sale in the eShop. One more game off the list. See you next time.